Hello people of the internet, welcome back, and in this video I'm talking about my speech. And because a lot of people ask me when they meet me and they find out that I'm deaf, they will often ask me, how do you speak so well? Or they'll say, I'd never have guessed you're deaf because your speech sounds so good, which I take as a compliment, but at the same time it does feel a little bit, it feels a bit weird when people say that, because it feels that they're saying that they think I'm better than other deaf people because my speech is good, and that's always a bit of a weird thing, especially when I don't feel like I haven't done anything special to make my speech good. Basically, the main reasons why my speech sounds so good is, there's three main reasons for the short answer, and then I'll go more in depth. First reason was I wasn't born deaf. I lost my hearing as an adult after I already knew how to speak, so that I already knew how to make sounds and everything before I lost my hearing, so I know how to use my voice basically. Reason number two is I have a cochlear implant which provides me some access to sound. I still can't hear the same as what someone with normal hearing can hear, but it does give me some access to sound that I wouldn't have otherwise. And reason number three is feedback and practice. I have noticed, well, I haven't noticed, but other people notice, hearing people notice, as my family will, my mum usually, occasionally, usually if I'm tired or if I'm just not really paying attention to the way I speak, I will start to pronounce words a bit strangely, and I don't really know how I sound because I can't really hear this, but I'll get a lot lower pitched and it will sound quite flat, and I'll start dropping kind of the ends of words or some sounds in the words. It's never to the point where people can't understand me, but it's enough that people who know me would notice that I'm not paying attention to how I'm speaking, basically. It's a much more conscious effort than it would be for a hearing person, because basically I'm having to remember where all of how to pronounce the words even when I'm not hearing them like that. For example, I won't hear a lot of an A and an E sound very much the same to me. It's one of those things that I have to consciously remember, this is how you pronounce that word. I should do a demonstration of how my speech sounds if I'm not paying attention to my speech, but it's something that I do unconsciously, and this is when I'm consciously, it's very hard to consciously undo what you've got into a massive habit of consciously doing. Right, I'll try and not do it. If I'm not trying to speak clearly, my voice will normally sound a bit like this, I guess I'd just drop the pitch a lot, and the definition of the words might not be as clear, and there's less kind of expression in the words. I don't know, like that. That would normally be like if I'm really tired or just not paying attention, or sometimes if I'm just really nervous I'll start talking a bit strangely. It's not that strange to be deaf and have a slightly kind of different sounding voice. That's not strange, but it's a change from how I typically talk when I'm making an effort to speak clearly. It's just something I've got to be a lot more conscious of, and be very aware of the fact that will happen if I don't speak clearly. A lot of people often wonder, like, will my speech change if I take off my cochlear implant or my hearing aids, and how does my speech sound when I don't have those on? I can demonstrate that. Obviously, it's not something, I don't really tend to have conversations with people when I don't have these on, and I obviously can't hear what I sound like when I don't have them on. I'll give you a demonstration now. I'll unplug that and I'll just take off my hearing aid. So now I can hear absolutely nothing. If you'd like to let me know in the comments how my voice sounds, this is me kind of just trying to speak clearly and normally. Let me know how it sounds in the comments. If you've noticed any difference or anything between me having it on and me not having it on. I'm putting it back on now. Putting it back on. Plugged in. Right. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you noticed a change in my voice when I don't have my cochlear implants on. That'd be interesting to see. The main issue I have with my speech, I would say, is less of a clarity issue, because I would say my speech is typically quite clear, and people don't tend to have trouble understanding me ever. It tends to just be a volume issue and a tone of voice issue. Volume issue, obviously, because I can't really tell the differences in volumes that well, I'll tend to just speak louder and louder and louder because to me that feels like a normal volume. Like, and the louder you speak, the more you can feel the vibrations in your throat, so it feels more like I'm talking if I speak louder. Because sometimes that's also, I tend to go lower pitched as well, because that tends to make, I don't know, the vibrations feel better. It's very hard to feel high vibrations. Like a lower pitch and very loud tends to be what feels the most. That's what kind of feels and sounds the best to me, but that's not what sounds the best to typically hearing people. That's why I always, if I can remember to make an effort, most of the time I will make an effort to kind of raise my pitch a bit and try and incorporate the kind of expression into my voice, because that's something that's very difficult to hear with a cochlear implant. I have a video, if you just click onto my channel, the video that comes up on my homepage, that's a cochlear implant simulation of what I can hear. It's obviously a simulation, it's not, it's going to vary for different people, but just to give you a vague idea of what the kind of thing I can hear is, if you listen to that video, you will be able to see that the kind of expression in your voice is lost a bit. That's something I have to consciously add in, because if I try and do an impression of how people's voices sound a bit, everything sounds a bit kind of like this. It's all very kind of nasal, and that's kind of how everything sounds. It sounds very kind of flat, and I don't really hear that like rising and falling in pitch, which is typical of natural speech. That's why I have to kind of artificially add that in, which makes it sound like I'm like putting on this act to try and make my speech sound completely different. But I'm not, it's just trying to maintain how my speech sounded before I lost my hearing. I would say having a cochlear implant is probably very helpful for my speech, and if you're considering getting a cochlear implant and you're wondering whether it will help you maintain your speech or help you improve your speech, I would say yes, with my cochlear implant. I'm much better at maintaining my volume, according to my family. When I just had hearing aids, apparently my speech would normally be very, very loud, and now I still often tend to go a bit loud, but they've said it's quite a bit better. And also I think it helps having that kind of auditory feedback, even though I can't hear everything with my cochlear implant. And I wouldn't want anyone to go into getting a cochlear implant expecting that they will be able to hear everything with it, because that's not realistic for most people. It does help give you that feedback of the sounds that are very completely impossible to hear with the for me with a hearing aid, are anything like high pitch. So S's and everything would tend to be completely silent through my hearing aid, whereas with my cochlear implant I can to some degree hear that sound, but it is something that I have to really focus on. I'll often, if I'm not paying attention, I'll drop kind of S's at the end of words. For example, the word words, it would be very easy for me to just go word and not kind of just cut it off before the last S. I wouldn't drop an S in like something when the stress is on that S sound, but cochlear implants do help that for me anyway. And I think other people have found that. I hope this video has answered some questions about my speech, and if you have any questions or anything about my speech or my cochlear implant, or how I've been maintaining my speech, or how to ask for feedback on your speech, please feel free to leave that in the comments. Ask me anything within reason, just don't make it like dirty. Ask me whatever and I'll be very happy to answer you. Thank you for watching, bye!